Fairview's coffee has mysteriously gone missing. Mayhem ensues when strange, coffee-craving zombies plague the city. Detective Mickey Potatoes, an overworked public servant, uncovers why ordinary citizens are losing their minds and how to stop the coffee apocalypse. But it involves the mafia. And when you're dealing with mafia crime families, nothing is ever easy. The mafia controls everything in the city, including the police, including him. If he breaks the mafia, they will break him. So, the city is without coffee. The city is burning before his very eyes, but he's powerless. Detective Potatoes has the power to stop the coffee apocalypse, but if he does, he could lose everything.
The Immortal Mask, a 1970s superhero crime noir adventure that follows a retired soldier who is given a covenant interview with a death row inmate. What he learns from the interview thrusts him into Atlanta's shadowy underworld. He'll have to utilize his military training to survive from being hunted for the information that could topple the most powerful ruling class in the city. This is not a pre-order or a crowdfunding campaign. Get your books now at Nunneley.com.
Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Van Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. Huh? So come get some. CromCon.
45 seconds to curtain, folks.
Your favorite podcast is Critical Blast.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Ashley Lamb.
Thanks for having me on.
Ashley, welcome to the show. I saw you on Luke Stone's Nerd Bacon a couple of days back, and I think Luke told you to come to us. God knows why. I thought he liked you, but here you are. So, so you've got a comic book, and the video said it was funding on Kickstarter. Is that one still funding on Kickstarter?
I wanted to note that we had one campaign on Indiegogo. That one's closed now, and the money is going into production at the moment. And we have two campaigns that are simultaneous at the moment. One's over on Kickstarter, one's over on Fund My Comic.
Okay, I take advantage of every option, is what I say. So,
I started out on just Indiegogo because I thought that was how everyone did it, and then I started to come on streams, and everyone was like, "No, I'm up on all three." So, yeah, it seems like a smart way of doing it.
If a fourth and a fifth option pop up that lets you take it, sell it to everybody. Got a little bit of chatter here going on in the chat already. Mike Walters has popped in. He's already liked and shared the stream, and we do encourage that so that people can find our guests and find out what they're doing. It's never for me. Everyone knows what I'm doing. I'm doing nothing. That's all for me. Pops is in the chat. We are, of course, simulcasting tonight on the Madness Network. So we are on the Critical Blast channel, the Madness Comics Network, and apparently a host of Facebook pages and Twitter pages. So Ashley, don't be nervous, but you're going out on multiple streams at this moment right now. And Tank Ferret is in the chat. Avast! Coming in off the high seas like that. So we're glad to have everybody in the chat. Ashley, is this the first comic book that you've done?
Yeah, it's not the first thing I've written. I actually have a little. It's not a comic book. It's just a regular novel. I have a little anthology up on Amazon. That's the first thing I've written. This is my first comic, though. Yeah.
Okay. I've written a lot of anthologies. I've written a couple of novels. I've written one comic book story. What's your comparison between your approach to writing straight out prose narrative versus writing a comic book story?
I think the biggest difference is you have to be really economical with your stories and with your panels when you're writing a comic. So if you're writing a book, you can just be as expressive as you want and go for as long as you want. In a comic, you really have to just hit the high notes and make sure that everything on the page is worth reading.
Yeah, and you had to be aware of what each panel is going to look like. I hated it. I mean, I'm going to be very, very happy with the results when it's printed. Don't get me wrong there, but when I finished that 8-page story, I was like, I'd rather write another 100,000 word novel than write another 8-page comic book story.
It's actually kind of funny you say that, because as I was writing so this comic is 64 pages, and as I was writing it out, I looked at the word count on the Word document and noticed I'd actually written more for the script than I had for a book that I'm writing at the moment on the side. And I was like, man, I've been struggling to get the word count up on the book, and this comic book script is like twice as big.
Yeah, well, with a comic book script, a lot of it is art direction, notes to the artist saying, hey, it needs to look like this, and this person's got to be doing that. So those are words that we'll never see print anywhere. A lot of people don't appreciate all the writing that actually happens in a comic book script that doesn't appear on screen, because you'll have a panel and the hero shouts, "You stop," and it was like, wow, the writer really poured himself into that. But they don't take into account the flames rising up behind him, the villain sneaking up with the weapon, all of that happened in the panel that also had to be written to tell the artist to make it show like that.
Well, I was reading, I have the Black Label edition of Kingdom Come. I've read it before, but I was reading it recently because it has a lot of promo material and, all this bonus stuff. And Mark Waid does the foreword, and he says that the script for the Four Kingdom Come issues was something like 100,000 words, which is that's well beyond what a lot of people put into full-length novels. So yeah.
Well, I've seen Alan Moore's script for Watchmen, and you want to talk wordy scripts. Alan Moore's script, the first 11 pages of that script are page 1 of Watchmen.
Yeah.
So
I can believe that. Yeah.
He gets very, very detailed. So the book you're doing on Fund My Comic and on Kickstarter and Indiegogo is this one here. And we're showing the Fund My Comic one because my show, I want to. No, I mean, because it's what I've got up. The Unbreakable Argonauts. And of course, the first thing I think of is the Greek myth, Jason and the Argonauts and the Golden Fleece and all that pantheon of heroes that he recruited to assist him in his cause. How does that translate to this not totally modern version, if I'm understanding the setting of the story correctly?
Yeah, so the story is set in the 1950s, and it's a very so there's only so much that I can really show in the first issue, because everyone has this thing with comics where you want people to understand what you understand about your story, going forward, and you're in your mind, you've got issues 2, 3, 4, 5 planned out, but you can't really communicate that in the first issue. So as we go on, it's going to pull a lot from Greek mythology for inspiration, definitely when it comes to villains and threats and all that kind of stuff. It's going to pull from a lot more than just Greek mythology, so there will be a little bit of African mythology in there, and Old English mythology and all that kind of stuff. Greek mythology was really my entry point into the classics and into heroes and all that kind of thing. Jason the Argonauts was like my favorite movie as a kid. So
you don't really hear. Go on. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So those kinds of stories were really my kind of foundation for heroes, and we're going to incorporate a few things, but Greek mythology is definitely a big one.
I would expect it to have some bearing. Since they are taking on the name of the classic team, and honestly, they were just Argonauts because that was the name of the boat. So it wasn't like Justice League or something like that. It's like, yeah, we're sailors on the Argo. We're the Argonauts.
Well, one of the I'm still on the fence about whether I'll ever include it in the script, because it's like in the new Fantastic Four movie where at the end they're like coming up with the goofy names, and someone's like, what about the Fantastic Four? And it's like, nah, that's silly. I'm not a big fan of those kinds of moments, but my kind of headcanon for this is that they were kind of bickering over a name, and then they built this kind of skyship, and they were like, well, the skyship named the Argo, so should we just be the Argonauts? And it seems like a really good, seems like
I don't really remember a lot of comics set in the 50s. Obviously, we were publishing them, but when you think about superhero teams, there's the Golden Age, which was World War II, and then there was the Silver Age, which was more Vietnam and domestic issues being dealt with. So there's this gap, it feels like, between the Golden and Silver Age, and that's where you chose to throw the Argonauts right into this little black hole of comic history.
Specifically for that reason, yeah, because it's the 50s was really taken over by science fiction, so it was suddenly it's Adam Strange is in there, and Challenges of the Unknown is in there, and all that kind of stuff, and we don't really have a something to bridge the gap between these two ages of what might have looked like if the superhero craze was still going on in the 50s. And yeah, that's a big that was kind of the niche that I wanted to fill.
In fact, I recall a story that Roy Thomas wrote it for DC, and it was what was it? It wasn't the final days of the Justice Society, but I think it was like America versus the Justice Society. It might have even been Batman versus the Justice Society. But it was this big court case, and it all devolved into the whole McCarthy hearings and why the heroes were forced to go into retirement because of the communist threat, and nobody trusted anybody, let alone people wearing masks. So,
and that's the start of Darwin Cook's New Frontier as well. characters, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. I love that book too. One of the few animated movies that really stuck close to the source material, both in story and in style.
Yeah, I think the comics definitely better, but the animated movie is great. Yeah,
they always are. They always are.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the setting here, Icarus City, and what goes on there, because it's superheroes and it's giant monkeys and it's just everything that makes comics fun.
I mean, it's the 50s. You got to have a giant monkey in there. So
yes,
yeah. So it's there's it was really important to me to kind of include all the tropes and cliches of this era that I really love. So it's very much a golden age city. It's not cosmic adventures, but still superhero-esque adventures. So giant monkey and all the heroes are kind of, there are different. I mean, pulp is a really big inspiration for this as well. So all the heroes are kind of, each one of them pulls from a different type of hero that was common in the 50s and to some extent in the 60s as well. And so
I do love the costumes on them.
Yeah, and these guys here, they're not the main team. Those are kind of so I want to have a kind of yin and yang. So you've got these pulpy heroes who are the more grounded vigilante guys, and then you've got these guys who are, if you know the Batman, Superman, Public Enemies story, where you got the heroes working for Lex Luthor.
Right.
Kind of a similar idea. These are these guys in the newspaper, they're superheroes who work for the government. And, that obviously gives a lot of inspiration going forward for some good conflicts between the two teams.
I like the mix of heroes too, because you've got the guy who's obviously got a professional superhero tailor, and it's it's form fitting to his muscles. And then you got a guy, like he pulled some stuff out of the closet to throw together, and it's his suit. And that was the golden age, man. I was like,
yeah,
they weren't wearing tights; they were wearing baggy, loose fitting clothes. So I keep being drawn to the gorilla character here, and yeah, you're right. It's the 50s. Julius Schwartz, I think, was quoted. I want to say it was him. If it wasn't him, somebody correct me. But
I think it
good
was.
luck finding the exact source. He was quoted as saying 3 things sold comics that they noticed, undeniably in the numbers. They said, by saying, hey, what comic books are the ones that are selling the most? And they had 3 things in common: a woman crying, all on the cover, a woman crying, the color purple, and a gorilla. And that's why in Promethea, Alan Moore's series he did for America's Best Comics, in the world of Promethea, there was this #1 selling comic, which was Weeping Gorilla Comic. And she was a purple gorilla that was always crying in a romance-style cover. And he's like, if those are the 3 things that always made a best-selling comic, imagine if we put all 3 together, it would sell great every issue. So that's trivia that nobody cares about, but it's Guerrilla Comics trivia to file away.
Who doesn't love a good gorilla comic?
Exactly. Now, you're in the UK, so I'm curious, what comics you were reading that inspired you to go for the 50s, because I'm sure that yes, all the American comics appear over there. It's not an unbridgeable gulf where nothing happens, but you have your own comics too, right?
I'm going to disappoint a lot of people and say I don't read British comics as much as I should. Mostly it's Judge Dredd when it comes to British comics for me.
That's all people over in America think is existing over there anyway.
Yeah.
I want to get my hands on a copy of Robot Archie just to find out how goofy it is. But I have read some Dan Dare. So we got Raiden Radio is in the house, and Woody's in here joining with him. Oh, you guys care about the monkey trivia? Okay, well, it's not a monkey, it's an ape. Doesn't have a tail.
But I can answer your question about the comics that inspired me. Starting out, I was very much like most people are, I was just a Batman guy. So I had this big collection of random copies of Batman from the late Silver Age, the Bronze Age, and all that kind of thing. I first got into it with Alan Grant's run with Norm Breyfogle, and I think that's still one of the better runs of. And Breyfogle's one of the better Batman artists as well. But from there on out, I started picking up, I mean, things like The New Frontier, and just really like the tone and the, just the style of that era. It's just absolutely fantastic for me.
I remember those books. It was the 80s. I was in college, and that was the run where Batman had a mute hunchback of Notre Dame living in the Batcave who was a savant with fixing all his electronic and mechanical equipment. Harold.
My favorite thing about that was the Batmobile was basically just a souped-up sedan.
Yes.
It wasn't like the extravagant. It wasn't the campy thing of the 60s, and it wasn't the big tank that we have now. It was just a car. And
Yeah, my favorite Batmobile. My favorite Batmobile was in the second or third issue of Man of Steel, the miniseries that John Byrne did, where it was just a black car. It looked and it made sense because it was like you didn't want to draw attention to yourself. You were an urban legend. You didn't want people to say, "Hey, there goes Batman." No, you were just a parked car. But he had this crime computer in the back trunk that was, more advanced than anything else. So he just popped the trunk and did work and then closed the trunk and chased somebody down.
Yeah, I mean, it was more in the style of, Green Hornet, where, it's a really nice car, but it's not, it's not something that you would look at and be like, that's a superhero.
The Black Beauty. I remember I met Van Williams at a convention. He was talking about doing the television show, the Green Hornet. He said it was this big, bulky car, and it was an older style, and everybody called it the Black Ugly because it was it was not a sleek Batmobile-esque looking thing. It was meant to ram down doors and get them from point A to point B.
Yeah, I can believe it.
So I'm looking at this picture we got up here, and again, going with the old school comic sensibilities, heroes would throw people off a train and say, fitting into his kind. But is that what's happening here, or is it the other way around?
This is actually the other way around. So I'll spoil a page that hasn't yet been drawn. So the panel that you're seeing at the bottom here is the one of the heroes has just fallen off. So there's a helicopter at the top stealing this train car that's got some uranium in it. They want to use the uranium because bad guys want uranium. Always. And and the jetpack guy gets up there. The ghostly figure you can see here, his name's Phantasmo. He's a little bit like Dead Man meets Spectre. Maybe not as strong as Spectre, but that kind of thing. And he's going to fly into this guy falling down because he's just been shot in the head and he's unconscious from the hit because his helmet took the blast, but it knocks him out. He's falling down. The ghost guy's going to go over. He's going to possess him for a little bit, get him back on his feet, and then go on from there.
Aha. And then we've got the gorilla conflict here. Two gorillas. I saw the word King Kong in the newspaper clipping, but it was in quotes, so it wasn't actual King Kong. It was sort of a
it's not King Kong.
Nickname.
These two are actually inspired by. I'm going to assume you're a fan of the Justice League cartoon.
Oh, very much, and the books. One
of my all-time favorite Justice League stories was the episode "The Brave and the Bold," where it's Grodd and Solivar. And I remember watching that and being like, I want more of this Solivar. I want him to show up a little bit more. And so I really wanted a gorilla who's a mainstay hero, or kind of like the every team's got a big guy, Hulk, the Thing. I guess you put Superman in there as the big guy for the Justice League. And it's the 50s, and I want a gorilla, so gorilla's going to be on the team.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Solivar could have stuck around with the Justice League as a member and been a monkey teammate.
And I watched that, and I always have this really random question, which is, why are there no gorilla Green Lanterns? Because the Green Lantern goes to good people of Earth and doesn't always have to be a human. So.
This is true. That would I would love to see that happen. I mean, it's just supposed to go to an intelligent species. For all we know, the ring could pick out a dolphin.
I'm pretty sure there's a virus that has a Green Lantern ring, isn't there?
I don't know about the virus. I know there's a planet that's a Green Lantern.
I think in the Grant Morrison one, I'm pretty sure there was a flu, like a space flu, who has a Green Lantern ring. I could be wrong about that. I'm
I've
pretty
got to
sure
find that. That
Yeah,
would
I
be
think it was
awesome. To be
in-
like, yeah, there's nobody here, and then this like laser beam of green light comes out and just blows them up. Because
I think it was in
it's-
Green Lantern season 1. Yeah.
there's
by,
so
Grant
much that
Morrison.
can be done with Green Lantern. There was a story. By golly, it's another Alan Moore story. I got to read more writers apparently. But it was one where Kat Matui was sent to a planet to present the ring to somebody and get them trained, and it was a planet where the beings had no eyes, they had no sight, and as such, they had no words to describe things like green or light or anything like that, and she ended up going it in terms of sound. So he's the only member of the Green Lantern Corps who's the F sharp bell. And he's got the ring, but it's shaped like a bell, and it does sonic things that are all in green energy. Very, very clever take on, what would you do to explain this to a planet that grew up in darkness with no eyeballs?
That's one of the things I love about guys like guys like Moore, guys like Morrison, is that you read these comics and I never would have thought of that. You could have paid me whatever to write a Green Lantern story, and never would have come up with that.
It's an infinite universe of infinite possibilities. Pick the hardest one to write, and then attack that.
Yeah.
So we're watching the gorillas fight it out here. It's never good when a gorilla's hanging on the helicopter. And then this guy's got a gun. Now, this guy is on the cover, so he's one of the new good guys.
So he's all the heroes that you're seeing in these panels. All the heroes. There's some villains in there as well, but here you go. The 7 heroes sitting at the table. Those are the main guys. And yeah, I mean, each of them is really a different, superhero archetype. So you got the, left to right, you got the kind of Rocketeer kind of guy. You got the, Spectre, Deadman kind of guy. You got the traditional, Superman kind of guy. Not as strong as Superman, but definitely up there. And then you've got kind of a, she's a speedster, so kind of Jay Garrick, kind of speed. Next guy is Mandrake. He's more in the kind of Sergeant Rock, Light Punisher kind of vibe.
Okay.
Aurelius, I'd say, is more of a Professor X kind of, he's an intellectual guy and more of the, he can fight, but he's as much the thinker behind the team as well. And then over on the right, you've got Raven, who's more of like a kind of Batman Phantom cross.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm really taken with Mandrake because he's just a guy with a gun, and yet he's part of this Justice Society. I love this picture, by the way. This picture puts me so much in mind of the if you've ever seen the cover of Justice League number 33 or 34, I want to say it's 33, where the Justice League is sitting around a table and the Justice Society is reaching out to them from a cloud above. It's the very first meeting of them. But there's something about the imagery of heroes sitting around a round table that is just, I guess it goes back all the way to the days of King Arthur. The idea of all these knights from various places with various capabilities sitting down at one place and ready for action.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did make sure to pass along one of the pictures of the JSA sitting at the table to the artist Daniel Max, and I was like, something like this.
Yeah. Okay. Well, he got it. He nailed it.
Absolutely.
Speaking of knights, I wasn't even thinking about this, but we've got some now.
Yeah, this one's more of a flashback page, so it's like a kind of showing you the different hero teams from throughout the ages. So this one's the top one's a Victorian team, and hopefully we'll make enough to make more stories in the future, so I can explain each of these teams.
That would be
great.
great.
And then the second one,
I would love to see a Victorian superhero team. That's why I liked League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. God, what's going on tonight? This is weird. He doesn't keep popping up in conversations like this all the time, I promise you. But
No, I mean, Alan Moore's. I'm one of those people where I like Alan Moore, but I like his, Tom Strong and League of Extraordinary Gentlemen stuff a lot more than I like Watchmen. I don't hate Watchmen, but I just prefer that stuff.
I liked League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and then I felt like the second volume was a little bit lesser. I got to the Black Dossier, and that's where I stopped. I'm like, okay, I can't even understand what any of this means anymore. And you had pages of text to back it up. Like, no, I don't want pages of text to back up a comic book story. I want to understand the comic book story.
The thing that pulled me into that was flicking through one of the books and just being like, is that War of the Worlds? That they're up against War of the Worlds? And I was like, I'm getting this.
And there was, obviously, spoiler alerts to everybody who has not read League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Moriarty plays a role in there. You would expect to have seen Holmes, but Holmes was not quite public domain at the time. But the M, the villain was supposed to be Dr. Fu Manchu. And they refer to the Limehouse Doctor at one point, which was supposed to be him. He's also not public domain. Somebody's holding a very tight trademark on him, and nobody can use him. So there was an adjustment that was made there. But lots of little behind-the-scenes stuff on that. So you told me the size of the book here before. I forgot it, but I think it was 60 or 80 pages?
64 pages.
64. Okay. That's a big book.
Yep.
Is it all written? Obviously,
yeah,
64 pages.
Yeah, the script's written out, yeah.
So what are we looking at in terms of art then?
How do you mean?
How many pages of art are done?
Oh, we were up to 12, I think, now.
Okay. Is coming out at a pretty good clip. A decent pace.
Yeah, Daniel's, he's pretty quick. He does about 4 pages a week.
That's good. That's good.
It's very good, yeah. And very consistent as well.
So if I were to look at a delivery date on here, you're January 1, 2024. That's plenty of time. If he keeps that pace up, you'll be done early, in fact.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at the tiers. Go ahead.
I was just going to say I made sure to, give us some breathing room and also factor in his time and, just to make sure that, reasonable time limit.
Yeah, definitely smart to do. You don't want to give yourself too tight of a deadline. It's always better to come in early. And people are like, wow, I expected this in January and I got it in November. Cool. So the tiers we've got here, the first one is, it is the first one, $11 US, and that will get you the digital for that one. And that will be, I'm assuming that's, right there, PDF, never mind. Some people give you a portal to the book for the money. I prefer the PDF that I can keep forever. But
it'll be a PDF, and please don't pirate it.
Yeah, come on, guys. You know what? I've never seen a big issue. Piracy is an issue. I have not seen it be a big, widespread issue, a problem. People talk about it. I don't see it happening, though. I think it's.
I think
maybe
it's
it
a lot
happens
more
for
so.
books.
Yeah, I think it's a lot more so an issue for the big two than it is for crowdfunding.
Yeah. Nobody's taking the crowdfunding books and putting them on BitTorrent or anything like that. The main shipment here, though, is of course the physical book, and that is a $21 deal here, plus shipping. And the shipping is something that's going to be determined, folks, by your address when you put it in. So you have to choose your reward first, and then put your money in. Cool thing about Fund My Comic, folks, is that whereas on Indiegogo, if you say, hey, I want this book, you click it, then you go through and then you pay for it. What happens here is that it goes into your shopping cart. So you can go to other campaigns and say, oh, I want that one too. And that goes in your shopping cart. and the other stuff goes in your shopping cart. And then you go to your shopping cart and say, oh, I backed all these campaigns. Maybe I better pay for these things now. It's a different approach. It took me by surprise when I first started doing it. And I know the guys doing the site, but like still wasn't something I was used to. But it's cool.
The other great thing about Fund My Comic is the funding actually reaches us in real time, so as we can make, we can pay for things as it comes through.
Yes, absolutely. You don't have to wait till the whole thing's over with, which would delay the production because you wouldn't have the money to pay for it until the campaign was over.
Yeah, I had that with Indiegogo, where the general consensus is your campaign closes, you get paid in about 2 weeks. For me, I think it's because I'm located outside the US. It took about 3.5 weeks.
Yeah,
so
slows it down.
Yeah.
Do you have that same kind of slow down between a purchase and the receipt of money going through the Fund My Comic system?
No, that's it's like 2 or 3 days it comes through.
Okay, because I know they're using Stripe. It's not them actually doing it. Oh, wait. Somebody who knows stuff. It clears your cart between campaigns. Well, that's okay. Again, I backed something today and I saw it go in the cart. I didn't back 2 somethings to see that it would actually do what I just assumed it would do. But I think the plan is to allow it to not clear between campaigns and actually put things in. I'll have to ask Luke about that again sometime. But thank you, Pixel Trader, for clearing me up, because I do not want to be inadvertently putting out misinformation about any site, let alone Fund My Comic.
Yeah, I think Luke said he's always working on the website anyway, so I'm sure new features will come up.
It's his full-time job now. So this is the cover by Daniel Max, by the way, for $21. $24, you got Yannick Paquette. And no slight to Daniel Max here. It's just, I wouldn't know the name Daniel Max if you threw it to me. I know the name Yannick Paquette.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it was pretty, it's my first comic, and I really wanted to do something that, made it feel special for me as well as the people buying the comic. So spent a good while looking at, reaching out to different cover artists from, known names, and most people are busy or well outside the price range, but Yannick was, Yannick was one of the guys. I had like a short list, and Yannick was one of the ones I was really open to work with. And luckily, I actually reached out to him on Facebook, didn't hear anything back, and I was like, okay, I'm not gonna be able to work with Yannick. And then I saw him on my Instagram feed, and I was like, well, I'll just shoot him another, message. And he sees it, and he's, eager to get started. Pretty much, I think within a month, had the project done.
Cool. And this is the big picture here. This is the Yannick Paquette cover. It's gorgeous, of course, because that's the quality of work that he does. Who does your interior artwork? Because that's also good. I mean, we saw the interior pages; they were very nicely rendered here.
That's Daniel Max, the same guy who does the main cover.
Okay, makes
it's really up to you which the main cover is. I'm not, if you like the Paquette one more, if you like the Max one more, it doesn't really matter.
And for $33, you get the Max cover, but it's the artist edition. It's black and white. No colors inside or out. No lettering inside, which truly makes it just the art book.
Yeah.
And then the $66 tier here is 3 times the 3 times pack. So if you are a retailer, or you want to get some for your friends, kind of just bundle together and say, hey, let's order it all at once, you can get 3 copies for $66 plus shipping. Which, let's do the math, folks. It's 24 here. 24 times 3 is $72 plus shipping. So yeah, big savings right there. And then for $70, you can get all of it. You're going to get the digital, you're going to get both covers, and you're going to get the black and white art book. So other than that, that sounded like I rattled off a lot of tiers, but it's really not. It's really very simple, which I appreciate, because I don't like to go through 37 different variant covers. Which one do you want? Because then I have to figure out which one I want the most, because I'm only going to buy one.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of the the multiple ongoing variants. It's not my thing.
Yeah, normally, and have plenty of friends who do the multiple cover thing. I get it. Generally, it's done with cover characters who can take on numerous poses and stages of undress. But when I see something that's got too many covers, it generally is compensating for not enough interior quality-wise for me. So
it does kind of feel like you're moving it for the covers more than anything else.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. It is very much a nice-looking piece, Pixel. So what's your long-term storytelling goal for the Unbreakable Argonauts? Is this like a 4-issue miniseries, forever ongoing? What's your plan?
So I've been thinking about this. The plan is to keep it going as an ongoing. The later issues probably won't be 64 pages, just because the idea is giant size number 1, then maybe level out into a more shorter, fewer pages per issue, but more issues kind of thing.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I'd like to keep it ongoing. I would, if I had $1 million, let's say, my plan would be to put out like a nice thick anthology where it's like, you're reading several floppies at once, basically, and it'll be maybe issue 1, issue 2, and then a different series and that kind of thing.
Okay, well, we need 500,000 people to take the Daniel Max cover here, so that Ashley can get $1 million to do this with.
But yeah, I mean, depending on, so I will actually reveal this on your stream. I've already put it up on Twitter, but I'm planning a launch of a 22-page regular book in July, which is going to be a different series called Red Claw, and that's going to be following a African superhero, pulpy hero, kind of in the vein of Black Panther, maybe a little bit of Phantom, and he's going to be his kind of old school classic jungle pulpy hero, fighting lions and fighting pirates and all that kind of great adventure fun.
Well, that kind of dovetails into what I was getting ready to ask you next, which is the expansion of this world in which the Argonauts live. Is this a universe, and does Red Claw exist in that same universe?
Still on the fence about that, just because if I include one thing in one character's lore, I'll probably have to include it and say it exists in the other world as well. So I don't want to get crossed over too much, and I don't want to reach a point where I'm thinking about one series while I'm writing the other one and making sure that the two match and everything like that.
Well, that's when you hire Jim Shooter. That's his job, to make sure that all the books align with the lore, which, it's not a bad problem to have to run a full company to keep track of that many books.
I mean, it's it's unlikely, but definitely I would like to have my own company at some point. I've got like unsure if I'll ever get to see it all in print, but I've got like 5-6 titles that I'd love to do. It all just really depends on what the market is, how many people show up for it.
Well, we've seen a few people pull it off to where they've got a company and a whole cadre of book titles that they're doing, and we've seen people who were still planning to do it and going strong at it. So hopefully this will be another one. I would love to see a 1950s panoply of books set in that world setting. A reminder to the audience, in about 10 minutes here, 11 minutes as we close out the show, do hop on over to the mic stand, where Mike Walters will be going over the niche news of the day, everything in manga, anime, professional wrestling, and comics. So you want to get over there, and when you're there, like and subscribe. That way Mike doesn't have to keep advertising over here to tell you to go. It'll just pop up on your phone. Mike, keep telling us here. I'm not telling you not to tell us. I'm telling them to get a double check. So let's assume the work. Has the book funded on the other platforms already?
We haven't fully reached our goal, but we're pretty well along. Yeah.
Okay. So is it fair to say that if it funds here on Fund My Comic, then it's funded, right? I mean, this is not
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if it funds Fund My Comic, we'll probably get the. I mean, I don't mind putting some of my own money just to make sure that it does, get written and get drawn and everything.
Okay.
So
I mean, and this is of course including. Never mind. I should have looked up. This does include the money that was raised on the other sites. So we just need what how much do we need? 2,500. There it is. Guys, we got to make this number a little bit bigger here. Just so the blind showman can find it. So that's not much. That's $800. We can do this, guys. We can do $800. So I'm going to refresh it just to see if somebody made something happen during the show. We were at 1740, and on a refresh, we are at 1740. That was embarrassing. That happens to me all the time. I keep hoping, that I'll be one of these kings one day who can say, "Hey guys, back this book. Oh, thank you guys, back in the book. Appreciate it." I don't have that clout.
I was going to say it's definitely a niche project. There's not a lot of pulpy 50s fans out there. But yeah, I mean, I definitely appreciate it if we get there.
You got to get the old guys like me involved. That's because those are the books I grew up reading, and still reading. Of course, just to give Mike one more shout out here on Fridays. That is when Mike's show changes format, and it is the comic book historical retrospective, where we go back to the Golden Age and we read Golden Age comics online out loud, funny voices and sound effects and everything. So we just have a great time doing that. And this Friday, we will be going into Flash Comics #1. So we'll be introducing Jay Garrick to the show. Important moment. Set your clocks, folks. 9 p.m. Eastern time, 8 o'clock my time. That's,
by the way, one of the all-time top 10 costumes of all time is Jay Garrick.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, behind this curtain, hanging on a little hook on the wall, I've got the Jay Garrick helmet.
That's fantastic.
And it's homemade. I went to eBay and I got a World War I Doughboy helmet. Some poor man probably gave his life for his country in this thing, and I turned it into a toy. But it was rusted out and rotted out on the lining, and I just sanded it down and painted it silver and got a pair of acrylic wings and drilled in and glued them on. Favorite cosplay piece. And yeah, he's just a long sleeve shirt with a lightning bolt he spray painted on it and a pair of jeans, and the man just runs.
I mean, that's I think that's kind of the charm of the Golden Age as well. It's very easy to, if you wanted to, it's very easy to cosplay.
Yes. Yeah. You could cosplay anybody from the Golden Age, just by, going to your local Goodwill, finding some clothes, and then either silk screening or printing out a sticker to put on your chest. I've always wanted to do the Golden Age Green Lantern as a cosplay.
I was just about to say, it's probably one of the easier ones.
Yeah, very much. The cape would be fun to try to pull off, but everything else, you would be so colorful. In fact, I don't have the image now, but somebody on Facebook was talking about cosplay being a lot older than people think it is. And he had a picture from a superheroes convention. It wasn't called a comic book convention then, but it was from the 40s. And the cosplay was incredible because somebody did a Hawkman, and they had the aluminum foil wrapped wings, and there was a Wonder Woman and a Golden Age Green Lantern. And of course they were all Golden Age characters because the Silver Age hadn't even happened yet. And it was just a glorious thing to look at. I'm going to have to find that again because I meant to save that picture. It was very cool. Anyway, Ashley, we are at the top of the hour here, which means we're going to wrap things up. Folks, if you haven't figured out by now, every time we interview somebody, the link to their project is always right below the picture. You can click on it at any time during the show, and it will take you in another window to the page in question where you can throw money at these projects and make them happen. I'm going to go make this one happen because I like 1950s comics and I want to read this. So I'll forget that I did it. And 6 months from now, I will get a very happy surprise in the mail. So
thank you.
So
I really appreciate it.
Everybody do the same thing. Ashley, thank you so much for coming on tonight. I do appreciate talking with you. I know it's very late where you are. So it was a big imposition on your part to participate in the show on this night. But
thanks for having me on.
Anytime you want to come on, you just let me know. Say, hey, I got some updates I want to talk about, or new project. We'll always have you on.
I might take you up on that when I launch Red Claw.
All right. Everybody in the chat, thank you so much for being here tonight as well. We don't have a show without you guys being here. We're just a podcast falling in the woods, I say otherwise. And we're happy you're here. And of course, as always, while you were here, we just hope you had a blast. Good night, everybody.